Hi, so this video is quite long as it is, so I don't want to waste your time. Here's what you need to know up front. 1. My name's Adam and I make a YouTube devlog series about how I'm currently making a game. 2. The fact that that game is a point and click adventure game is totally irrelevant to this tutorial video, don't worry. 3. This is me, I don't know how to code, I don't know how to use Unity, and I'm basically an idiot. 4. This is Jeremy, he's very much not an idiot. Jeremy has almost finished both a sci-fi point and click adventure game called Dexter Stardust and a platformer sequel to that game, both made in Unity. 5. Jeremy has very kindly offered to teach me, an idiot remember, how to use Unity. 6. There will be follow-up videos to this one about how to set up and use the adventure creator asset for Unity for people making a point and click adventure game, but in this specific video we're just going to cover the real basics. So that's what happens when you first set up Unity, what each window does and means, and then in a very basic sense how to make a 2D platformer. We've done this tutorial as a screen share video call so that Jeremy could teach me as I went along and so that you can follow along too. I've done a really light edit, but please be aware that it's not exactly as polished a video as you might find on Skillshare. We jump about a bit at times and make the odd mistake, but here's the thing. We're going to go at an approachable pace, there is no assumed knowledge here at all, and it's free. If none of that sounds useful to you, then absolutely stop watching right now. If, however, like me, you're a bit of an idiot but want to learn the basics of Unity, go grab yourself a coffee or a cup of tea, get comfy, and follow along with us. Here we go.
So, before we talk about Adventure Creator, it's extremely important that we know what Unity does on its own, because Adventure Creator has a plethora of features and it can be extremely easy to get lost in those features and then not really know what's Unity doing and what's Adventure Creator doing. So today we're just going to make the absolute most basic platform game, 2 scenes. One will have a menu, just will start the game, and one will quit the game. And then the other scene will be just jumping from platform to platform. We're not even going to make a goal. We're not going to make collectibles. We're not even going to implement dying. So if you fall off a platform, you will fall forever. Okay, so it's going to be extremely basic. I shared a script with you. I shared a player movement script. We're going to write a script that changes scenes and quits the game. And then we're also going to, work with maybe an animator controller and things like that. But first we're just going to look at what Unity does. So this is the Unity hub. And do you know why Unity has a hub and why you just don't open each file individually?
Literally, this is as far as I've ever got with Unity is opening it and installing it. And I think
excellent. So right there, when you click on installs, you could see that you've installed the LTS, which is, I think it's long-term, whatever. It basically means that they support that over the long term. In the install, you could see that it's the 2020.3.2. You can add another one. So why don't you click add? We're not going to do this now, but if you click add, you can see all the different ones that you can add. There's some official releases, a 2021 release, but you notice it's not LTS yet. So if you are not looking to give Unity feedback, because Unity wants the thousands of developers that, they're like, okay, we need feedback on this release, this beta release. But if you're not looking to give Unity feedback, I would just stick with the LTS versions.
Yeah, okay? I think feedback is a bit beyond my pay grade at this point. So that's
no worries. But I actually did have a version. I used one of those versions unknowingly, and I had an issue with box colliders, like changing nodes on a polygon collider or something like that. So you definitely want to steer clear if you're not looking to give them feedback. So why don't you click X? We're not going to download a different version. Let's go to your project. Let's add a new do new. And what we want is a 2D project. Yep. And then why don't you just call it block game? Yep. Okay. Very good. And then choose the location. Very good.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. Create. Here is Unity. So there's a lot of different things here. We might notice that on the left, there's the hierarchy. In the center, we have scene and game. Why don't you click on the game window? Yeah, we're at the very top, game.
Oh, sorry, game.
Very good. So this is what your camera is seeing in the game. Okay. So the difference between scene view and game view, click back to the scene. The scene is actually where you'll be placing your objects, just putting things into the game. Okay. They're going to go into scene view. And then if you want to see what that cropped version looks like, you go to the game view. Okay. And when you press play at the top, the little triangle, there's play, pause.
Yeah.
The game is playing. But why isn't it doing anything? Well, there's nothing to play.
Yeah.
So you can press play again and it will stop it.
Okay.
Okay. Now you might also notice that in the scene view at the very top, it says shaded, and then to the right of that, it says 2D, right?
Yeah.
Click 2D, and it changed to 3D mode, right? Now you can do that. That will not break your game. If you accidentally click that, you might think, but I created a 2D game. Yeah, it's true. You did create a 2D game, but you can switch between 2D and 3D views. So you're not going to break anything. Okay. So why don't you click 2D again? We'll keep it to 2D. And on the right, we have the inspector. The inspector shows the details about the component or the object that's selected in the hierarchy or in your project folder at the bottom of the screen. Okay. Now you can move all of these around. Actually, why don't you try dragging the game window over to where the inspector is? So now you can have it over there. Okay. And then drag it back. All right. Now, here's another thing. The game is in free aspect. Okay. Why don't you click where it says free aspect?
Yeah. I
like to make my games personally in 16:9. I know a lot of people choose an actual pixel amount. They'll do like 1920 by 1080. I personally, this is personal, and again, people can disagree with me in the comments. I'm fine. But I do pick 16:9 because it's the aspect ratio and you're not limited to a specific number of pixels. Okay. Does that make any sense? So yeah, my game personally is in 4K. So that allows me to not worry about that. So I think that, and the same thing with you, I think it would probably be best if you chose 16:9. Now you can zoom in, you see where it says scale. If you pull it up, it'll actually zoom in the game view, but you don't really need to do that. You can leave it all the way at the bottom. Okay. And then also mute audio. That's something that might be good when you're play testing your game. You can mute the audio so the game just doesn't play any audio while you're play testing it, especially if you're hearing the same song over and over and over and over again, you know? Okay. Project folder. The very bottom, you have the project folder. You can see that there's scenes automatically created. Why don't you click on the scenes folder? Yep. So this is the sample scene. In fact, this is the scene that's open right now, is your sample scene. Yeah. And actually, is it possible to stop full screen mode? Because Mac actually cuts something off. So actually just make the thing the full screen. Yeah. Like that's better, because we can actually see at the very top, it says sample scene. It tells us. Okay. Now, this was automatically created when you created your project. Another thing that was automatically created in this project was one thing, a camera, because you don't have a game if you can't see anything. So the very first thing that is created by Unity is a camera, and you can see that on the left. Now the camera, look in the inspector, it has a background. You can change that background color. Let's change it. Ooh. Oh.
Oh, it's because we're recording the screen.
Okay. Why don't you click the actual in the color area?
Oh, yeah.
Let's change it to a nice purple color. We'll give our game a purple and yellow theme. There you go. Wonderful. Love it. Get rid of that. And now if you go to the game view, it's purple. Okay. So let's go back to the scene view, and let's click on the main camera again on the left.
Yeah.
Yep. Another thing that we see is that size. The size is actually going, you can pull it out and pull it in, pull it out and pull it in. Yep. And you can see that size is changing. So that's what you will use when you start placing things in your game to actually dictate the size of that camera. Okay. Now, a component that you see on the camera is that's extremely important is the audio listener. Do you see that?
Show me, point to me where, sorry? Or
Yeah. So yeah, I wish I could point, but I can't.
Sorry, yeah.
Do you see on the where it says camera in the inspector?
Yep.
And then directly underneath that, it says audio listener.
Oh yeah, that got it. Yeah.
So that means that that camera now can listen for audio. If you remove the audio listener, there'd be no audio in your game. Okay. So the camera itself is listening for the audio. So for example, if the camera is here and there's some audio playing over here and it's in a 3D space and you tell Unity to use the camera in a 3D space, then it will play that sound as if it's over here, not as if it's in the center. Does that make sense? So you can kind of create like a panned effect.
Yeah. Sure.
Another thing that's important is where do you see the Z position? Look at the camera as a transform at the very, very top in the inspector.
Yes.
And then its Z position is -10. It has to be -10 when you're using a 2D camera, or else it will not display what is being rendered. Because click the 2D button again in the scene view, 2D, 3D. You see, that is actually, it's actually -10. Okay. So you can actually see like the position of that camera. If you were to change the -10 to 0. Okay. So if we were to put some sprites in, you wouldn't be able to see them now. They'd be invisible. So keep that. So keep that at -10. That's one thing on your camera, on your orthographic camera, which is for 2D, that you do not want to change. Okay. Okay. Let's click 2D. So now we're going to check one other thing out. I want you to click on File at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
And you see Build Settings.
Yeah.
Build Settings. So that I know does not look tools. I don't think so.
No.
So this is where all your scenes are. Okay. All of your scenes are held here. So if you have a new scene, you have to, when you open that scene, you're going to click Add Open Scenes, but we don't need to do that right now. And then also when you're building your game, you're actually making the application. This is where you build it from. And you can see the target platform is Mac OS. You can change that to Windows or to iOS. I don't know if you've downloaded the other.
I downloaded Windows, iOS, and Android, I think, as well as.
Right. So basically, when you switch it, if you switch it from Mac OS to PC to Windows, it's going to actually take, once your game's big, it's going to take a little while to switch all those assets over that you've imported into your game to be able to be built on a Windows computer. So sometimes, when you're switching, making builds, just switch it to Windows and walk away for an hour. Okay.
And that I can do.
Depending on how big your game is. So then you can click the X, you can get rid of the build settings. Okay. So very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to import some things into the project folder. Okay. So why don't you click where it says assets at the very bottom on the project folder. Yeah. And why don't you right click and create a new folder?
Create folder.
Yeah, folder. Very good. And we'll call it sprites. Okay. Very good. So why don't you drag and drop the two sprites I sent you? I sent you a white square and a black square.
Yeah. Into
all right. Very good. And then create another folder and call it scripts.
And I cannot type when people are like watching.
It's okay. Okay, very good. So that script that I sent you, were you able to download it? downloads folder?
I am doing it now. Yep. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
Downloads. Okay. Yeah.
Put it in the scripts. Okay, very good. So first thing we want to do is we need to create a player. So why don't you open the sprites and let's drag in the white square.
Just into the
Just drag it into the hierarchy.
Into the hierarchy. Yeah.
Okay. Now you might notice immediately that a sprite renderer component in the inspector is placed on top of it, right? It says sprite renderer.
Yeah.
Okay. That you can also add that component. You see where it says add component?
Down here, yeah.
Yeah. So click add component. And you can actually, if you type in sprite, so you can see sprite renderer is one of those components. So had it not already been there, you could just create a new object and then add a sprite renderer. Let's try that a different way. Go over to the hierarchy on the left, and then the plus icon at the top of the hierarchy, and click create empty. Whenever you create an empty child, sometimes the transform's all crazy. It'll like give you crazy numbers, and you can just reset it to 0. But game object, let's call this one player. And we can delete the white square now because we're just going to replicate that. Delete it, right click, delete. Actually, this is important. If you change something in the hierarchy, you can undo it. If you change something in the project folder, you cannot undo it.
Okay.
Okay. So if you delete something from the project folder, like if you delete a scene on accident from the project folder, well, go into your trash, or if you're on a Windows computer, recycle bin, go there, and then just drag it back into your project folder because you permanently deleted it from the project. There's no undoing. Okay. So we've got a player. So let's add the component. Let's add sprite renderer.
Sprite renderer. Yeah.
Very good. So let's now drag the white square into where it says sprite in the sprite renderer.
So from here up to here.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Boom. Okay. Very good. Now, a couple of things we might notice. We notice that it's using the default material, sprite default. So sprite's default it can't do anything fancy, like that. You can't like respect a lighting system or anything like that. So if you end up doing lighting systems in the future, you'll have to actually change the material on all your sprites. There is a way to do this in mass, but we're not going to cover that. Now, another important thing is the sorting layer. It says sorting layer default. That's fine, but the order in layer. So what is positive will be in front of what is negative. Okay. So remember how we were talking about eventually we'll be layering your scene in Adventure Creator?
Yeah.
It'll be actually using this Unity system of ordering layers. So if you have your foreground, it will be, 20, and then your player will probably be 0, and then what's behind them will be like -10, and then you can place things in the middle that to be in front of or behind him.
Sure.
Okay, now let's add another thing. Actually, let me go and just make sure that I'm doing everything right. Sorry about this. I am actually going over to my own duplicate project here. Okay, very good. So we need to also let's zoom in on in the scene view. We're going to zoom in. Very good. Zoom in as far as you can.
Sorry, I've lost where the zoom was. Where's the zoom?
You could just actually you can actually zoom, I think, if you just are on your mouse, 2 fingers if you're using a trackpad.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, zoom in, zoom out. Very good. Yeah, why don't you zoom in?
Yeah.
Let's zoom in until we see that block. Oh, there's that block. And you're like, oh, that block is so small. Why is it so small? Well, why don't we click on the white square in the project folder?
In the project folder,
bottom. Yeah. So we see that the pixels per unit is 100. But how big is the white square? Look at it at the bottom, at the very bottom on the inspector.
16 by 16.
So it's just 16 pixels by 16 pixels. But we want to make sure that sprite is bigger. It takes up a full unit. We want to make let's say this game is like a pixel art game, and we want it to be 16 by 16 blocks. Well, do you see where it says pixels per unit? on the inspector, choose that to 16. All right, very good. And then click a click out of the inspector and it'll click apply. Great. Oh, now it's bigger. And you can actually see now that it takes up a full unit. Do you see the grid?
Yeah.
So now it's a complete unit. So click, why don't we click the play button again?
So what, sorry, just as a question there, why is it was set to 100?
By default.
But why is 100 make it appear smaller than 16?
Okay, so we're not changing anything in Unity. We're actually just changing how our sprites appear according to the units that are displayed in the scene view. So you see in the scene view the grid. Yeah. One square is one unit. One of those units one of those units equals 100 pixels. Okay. Right. But we are actually telling our sprite, okay, for that 100 width, we actually just want to say that that's 16 pixels. So we're kind of like forcing the sprite into the determined unit by Unity. Yeah. Okay, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. Instead of changing your project, you change your sprites. Yeah. Okay. So let's do another thing. If you press play and start the game.
Just thinking about
it might take a moment.
There we go.
Fancy that. We have a square in the middle of the screen. It doesn't do anything. Okay, let's add some physics to it. Okay. So let's click the player in the hierarchy, and we're going to add a component. The component we want to add is called a box collider. So search box collider.
Box collider 2D or box collider?
Box collider 2D. Yes. Yep. All right. So a couple of things here. If you do not want, if you want this box collider to react physically with the world, meaning it's a solid object, leave it as it is. If you want this box collider to be a trigger, you tick the is trigger box. What does a trigger mean? Basically games are just boxes interacting with boxes. So or circles interacting with circles, or capsule colliders colliding with capsule colliders, it's just boxes colliding with boxes. So like if this box goes over this other box, let's say you have a coin in Mario. Well, Mario is probably just a box, and he collides with a coin, which is a trigger, which isn't a physical box. It means he doesn't physically stop when he hits it. He hits that trigger, and then that trigger tells the system to play an animation that he collected that coin, and then it tells an integer, or it tells an integer to increase by 1, that he's collected one more coin, right? So that trigger will probably be used when your player is like walking over an area, okay? And you want, when the player walks into this area, I want this to happen, okay? So that's called a trigger. It's literally triggering some type of an event. Okay, but that's not enough. We need one more component to have this object react to physics in Unity. We need a rigid body 2D. Let's do an add component, rigid body 2D. Yep.
2D. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And let's make it so we're going to keep it as a dynamic type. Let's make sure that let's change the gravity scale to 3. And then we want to make sure that the constraints, it should be click constraints. Just want to make sure, I think, and do freeze rotation Z. Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure if we were to press the play button, our player would just drop into infinity.
Thinking about it. Yep.
Fell. It's gone. Cool. If you go back to scene view, actually press play.
Yep.
And go into scene, and then once it plays, go into scene view.
Okay.
And then Zoom out as far as you can. You might still, can you catch it? Is it still falling?
He's
Yeah.
going
Oh, there it is. It's still falling. It will fall for infinity. Okay.
cool.
So press play and we'll stop it.
How do I, sorry, this is a really stupid question. How do I center back on the,
Oh, that's a great question. I have no idea how to center back, but I always just click option and I drag. You can drag.
okay, right.
Yeah. That's I'm sure there's a button on Windows. Yeah, press play will stop it.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. And also all those controls at the top, at the very top near like the quit button in the window where it's like there's the hand, there's the 4 directions.
Yeah.
Those all can like do all of the things that there's like keyboard shortcuts for all that stuff, but the move tool is probably what you want by default. So again, we have a player object, it falls now, but you can't control it. So let's go to let's go back to our player and let's add a component now. And let's type in player. And I have a player movement script. That's the one I gave you, right?
Cool. Yeah.
All right, let's click it. So why don't you click on where it says script in that, click on it. And then you see this now, it tells you where it is. Why don't you double click on it and we'll open it up.
On the icon here or on
the actual script on the left.
Yeah.
Okay. So oh yeah. Okay. Very good. You don't have Visual Studio yet. So we should probably download you Visual Studio at some point, but
okay.
We can see we have a player movement script. So right here, you could see that it's super simple. It does look probably crazy if you've never done this before. But there's just a couple of different variables. And this is the script that we're using to move the player. Let's get rid of the script. We can press you get rid of that. All right, very good. So why don't you go back to the player object in the hierarchy?
Yeah.
And go down. And then let's change the movement speed to 8 and then jump force to 15. Okay, very good. Now, if you press play, it's just going to fall again. It doesn't have anything to fall on. So we need to give them a platform. So let's give them a platform. Let's go back to the sprites folder in our project, and we'll drag in another white square. We're actually not going to use the black squares today. We're just going to use the white squares.
So just the white squares.
Yeah, drag in another white square. Excellent. So the position you see is like X -3, Y. You can change that to anything you want. Let's change it to 0. 0, 0. Very good. Let's make the platform big. So on the scale, let's change the X to, let's change it to 5. Okay. And then let's change it to 10. We'll give them a bigger platform. Okay. And then we'll change the Y to 20. It's big. Okay, very good. So let's drag it down. So why don't you hold down Command and press and then drag it and then and then hold on to the green arrow.
Sorry. Okay.
And what we're doing when we hold down Command is we're actually moving it by half units or full units. Okay. The reason I told you that is especially for pixel art. Like sometimes you want to pull things instead of just like pulling it, you want to grab it by units or half units. Yeah. So let's pull it. So let's pull it almost down to the bottom, like right about there.
Yeah.
And then let's press, actually it's not a platform yet. So we need to add a component to it. So what component do you think we need to add to it to give it physical properties? What did we add to the player that gave it physical properties? The very first thing that we gave to the player.
Box collider.
Yeah, let's give it a box collider.
Okay.
All right. And by default, that should be all we need. So let's press play. Yay, it stopped. Press spacebar. He jumped. Press left, right. You made a game. Okay, very good.
Rich.
That was pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so press play again. The last thing we're gonna do for this is we're gonna change the color and we're gonna create a prefab. So let's change the title of white square in the hierarchy to platform. Okay, very good. So let's now go to the assets folder.
Yeah.
And let's create a new folder. Let's call it Prefabs. Very good. Let's open the Prefab folder and then take the platform from the hierarchy and drag it down. You just created a prefab. Why would you create a prefab? Prefabs help save on memory. So instead of creating all these different unique objects in a scene, okay, because the hierarchy will change based on each scene. If you create a new scene, the hierarchy will be blank, okay? So we want to create prefabs in order to save on memory. So for example, let's go back to the Mario again. Mario is a prefab, a player prefab that gets called into each scene. There's also other prefabs, like a Goomba would be a prefab because it's just repeated, right? It has the same exact movement. It does the exact same things, but you can place it at different places in the scene. A coin would be a prefab because you just need one coin. You just need to make one coin and then you can just duplicate it in the scene as many times as you need, right? So that way it's only drawing from one file in your project, okay? Now, why don't you go up to the hierarchy and delete the prefab? Yep.
So literally delete this, yeah.
Yep. Oh, okay. It didn't delete it from the project though, did it?
No, okay.
So it's still there. So you can create a prefab, and this is one of the things that we're going to learn when we start using Adventure Creator. You'll create a player prefab in any scene, you make it a prefab, and then you just delete it from the scene, but it stays in your project folder. Okay. And Adventure Creator will basically spawn that player into every single scene, drawing it from your project folder. So let's draw in a couple of platforms. Why don't you draw in maybe 3 platforms?
So sorry, this is a stupid question. Do I drag them into the scene or into?
Yeah, you could drag them right into the scene or right into the hierarchy.
Okay, it does. So either one is fine, right? If you drag them. Okay, great.
Exactly. Why don't you just position them how you'd like? Imagine you want to jump from platform to platform. They can overlap each other. It's not a problem.
Okay, should we try jumping that gap?
Yeah, let's try jumping that gap.
Oh,
all right, press play and then.
I mean, it was a good effort. It was a
noble
effort.
Yeah.
Oh, that was why. I pressed up instead of jump. Sorry. This is the level you're dealing with. Yeah. This is the level of idiot you're dealing with.
No worries.
Okay. I mean, that is a game, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a game, right? So basically, basically, think about it. You have another. You let's say you create another script and you put it on a coin, and every time your player character passes over that box collider, which is a trigger, it tells an integer to increase by 1. You're collecting coins.
Yeah.
You know that I mean, like that sounds super. It is very, very simple. So press the play button again. All right. So another thing that you can do in the hierarchy is you can create folders. So why don't you press the plus button again and create a game object and create empty. Create empty.
Sorry, create empty. Yeah.
And then you can change the name to platforms. And then the platforms, actually change the transform for platforms, because you could see that it was crazy. You can actually just click the 3 vertical dots on the transform on the right of the transform, 3 vertical, right there. So, and click reset.
Okay.
0. Okay, and then drag the 2 platform prefabs underneath that to parent it.
Like
right on top of it. You drag them right on top of it, yeah. And then and then you have a little folder there. You can keep things neat and tidy on the left. Okay.
Great. Okay.
Very good. So, and then you can also move them all together. If you click platforms and you were to move them left or right, you know. Okay, so let's actually do one more thing. Go to the player.
Yeah.
And then you see the color of the player?
Here, yeah.
Yeah, let's change him to a nice yellow color.
Okie dokie.
Something that will go good with that purple.
A bit gold. There we go.
Nice. And then click on the platforms. You can actually select both of them at the same time, believe it or not.
That way.
Nope,
No.
the other way, selecting both of the actual objects. Very good. And then you could change the color of both.
How do sorry, am I doing that by have I done
Any
that
way
right?
you'd like.
I've done shift. Is that's selected them both, right?
Yep. You can see on the left in the hierarchy that they're both selected.
Sure. Okay. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so change the color to something nice. All right, let's go over to our game view. Let's see what that looks like. That's what it looks like now. Okay, so very good. Yeah, press play.
We're gonna play it.
Yeah, great.
You can't stop me. Masterpiece. Great.
Yeah, masterpiece.
Cool.
Box game. Okay, so block game. So one last thing that we need to do is you may notice the camera does not follow the player. And you're like, oh my gosh, do we have to code some complex system? Well, Unity does this great thing where when an asset gets really good and a lot of people use it, they just buy it from the developer and integrate it into Unity. And one of those things that they did several years ago was something called Cinemachine. Cinemachine is an excellent add-on to the camera that has a lot of functionality that you'll never even have to program or worry about. So that's actually in something called the package manager. So I think it's up in the, I always forget where to open the package manager. Go to window and then go to package manager.
Oh yeah.
All right, package manager. So there's a lot of different package managers, right? And one of the things you're probably going to want is Visual Studio Editor. So let's do that one. That one is the one we're going to want. Let's do update. Oh, actually, you already have it somehow. I wonder why it's not being used by default. We might have to change that. Well, let's search for where it says packages and project up at the top of the package manager. Let's go Unity registry.
Yeah.
And then we'll search for Cinemachine. Ah, there it is. Let's do install.
Cool.
Okay. So we're not going to be using Cinemachine with Adventure Creator, but what I'm showing you is how to download a package, which is important. Okay. So you can actually, the package manager window, once it's done compiling these scripts and importing Cinemachine, you can actually put the package manager window down by your project or console windows at the bottom, or your inspector tab, or place it where you want in the, so you just have it, you know, accessible on demand. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can trim this down when we come to.
It's okay. It takes a while. I recently watched this devlog by a guy who's making a 3D platformer game, which can have extremely complex cameras. And he was like coding his camera, and he was like so worried that, you know, like all this clipping was happening. And he's like, no, I don't want to use Cinemachine. It's not good enough for my project. And he imported Cinemachine and everything worked perfectly. And so let's slot that package manager near something. You can just drag it. Bloop.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. And then now let's go to the main camera in your hierarchy. And I want you to add a component and search for Cinemachine Brain. Brain.
Yeah.
Boom. Put it on there. Boom. Good. Excellent. Okay. I don't think we have to change anything on this, but why don't you go to your player?
Yeah.
And now you want to add is it here? No. We want to create a new object in the scene hierarchy.
Okay. Yeah.
Make sure that the position again is 0. and then call that object Cinemachine camera 1 or something. Doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't matter at all.
Yep.
Okay. And then let's add a component, Cinemachine virtual camera.
Sorry, add component, Cinemachine virtual camera.
There you go. Very good. Excellent. So let's take so we can see that actually we need to change the Z position to -10, just like our other camera. Oh, there, our game comes back.
Oh yeah.
Now,
okay.
very good. So we can also see it kind of made it go out a little bit more. So you can always, there's all these different things that you can adjust. But one of the things we want to do is we want to make it that it follows our player. So do you see where it says follow?
Yeah.
So why don't you drag the player into that? Yeah.
Oh no, sorry.
Yeah, go back. Yeah, no worries. Then drag the player and from the hierarchy. You don't like click and then release. You just click.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Click and drag it where it says follow. Boom.
Yeah.
Now, oh, it says body. It should say framing transposer.
Oh, where's that? Sorry, body to framing transposer.
There you go.
Ooh, okay.
And then let's press play and see what happens. All right, now it moves. Yeah, and you can actually click off of the Cinemachine cam so it doesn't display that awful blue. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. So now we have it following. And there's a lot you can do with Cinemachine. You can change like the dead zone. So for example, like in a game like Sonic, you might notice that the camera doesn't perfectly follow Sonic. There's actually a zone that he can walk in which the camera doesn't move. And then once he's reached that point, then the camera starts moving and you can ease that in or out. And all of that's contained in Cinemachine.
Okay.
But Cinemachine also has 3D cameras. So like you might notice in 3D games, like especially when you have a player and like you can like walk behind a wall and then like the camera will like make sure that you can still see the player.
Yeah.
Cinemachine can do all that stuff.
Okay.
So you can stop playing.
I want to.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No, I think I followed everything so far. There's a lot to take in because someone like me who's not very technically minded.
Yep.
This is it's surprising how got to this stage.
You made a game basically.
Well, yeah,
but one of the things we might notice is that there's no menu, right? So the last thing that we really need to know, because last thing, what does that even mean, right? But like there's no sound in our game. We haven't done any of that.
Yeah.
But let's create a new scene. And in the new scene, we're going to create a menu. So go down to assets.
Yeah.
Let's go down to your scenes. Actually, and then let's change the name of this scene. You see where it says we could just change the name of that scene.
Yeah.
Let's change it to level 1.
Yeah.
And then you cannot copy and paste anything in the project folder, but you can duplicate things. So why don't we click on level 1 and we'll press Command D. All right. So why don't we call the new level? We'll rename it Start. Okay, very good. So let's open that scene. Oh, save. Yes. Very good. Go back to level 1. Okay, man. I don't know. I don't know why when we selected we have start and it didn't go back to the start scene. Double click on start scene. Man, why didn't it save anything that we did in the other one? Super weird. Maybe because it's the sample that like we were working from the sample scene. I have no idea. That doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't matter. Click on start.
Yeah.
Now this scene is not in the build settings yet. let's go to File in the upper right and click on Build Settings. You can cancel that. And then we want to add open scenes. Okay. Now Start is in the build settings. Now drag Start to the top. We want Start to be number 0. Okay. And in Unity, all numbers do not start at 1. When you're dealing with code, numbers start at 0. So if you have 4 actions, for example, the first action is 0, second action is 1, etc. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes you're like, okay, why does it say there's only 3? It's like, no, if it says there's 3, there's 4 because 0 is a number. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We can get out of the build settings. Okay, so Unity has a built-in UI system that's extremely robust. In fact, it's far more robust than the menu system that is in Adventure Creator. In fact, you can use the Unity UI system together with Adventure Creator. You can make a game completely using the Adventure Creator menu system. It's fine. There's just more you can do with the Unity UI system. Now, there are a lot of tutorials that you can see how to use the Adventure Creator system with the Unity UI system, but we're just going to use the Unity UI system to create 2 buttons. Okay, so let's go to the hierarchy.
Yep.
Okay, and then do UI. And then let's do Button Text Mesh Pro. And you're probably going to have to import Text Mesh Pro. Yes, import TMP Essentials. Take a moment. Shouldn't take too long. And then import TMP examples and extras. There might be something you need. I don't know. Okay. Text Mesh Pro is also another thing that they acquired, just like Cinemachine.
Right. Okay.
That is just super robust text
time.
system. So why don't we click the X? We don't need that anymore. Now, one of the things you might be like, what? It's like so big and gross. Like, also zoom out really far. You have to zoom out really far. Yeah, oh, so that whole box thing that has like its bottom left corner positioned in the center of your actual game screen. You're like, why is this giant UI over here? I want like a UI that actually fits on top of my game screen. It does. Click on the game view. Oh, it's just in the bottom. Okay. So click on scene view again. So basically, Unity is like saying like, this is your UI. It lays on top of everything in your game. Okay. It literally lays on top of even if you have the sorting layer maxed out. Okay. You have something at the top sorting. This is still over that. Okay. And that's the reason it hangs out up here, up to the upper right. Now let's take that button and set its position to 0.
So can I just do reset and everything goes 0? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, very good. So let's also make the width of the button 200. Very good. Now, do you see the button in the hierarchy on the left?
Yeah.
Okay. Also important to notice, when you created UI, it created 2 things: a canvas, a button. Well, that's 3 things, but a canvas, button, and an event system. Click on event system.
Yep.
That's automatically created when you created your canvas. Now, by default, you can navigate your Unity UI using your mouse. If you want to do something like a game controller, you have to set up what those inputs are. Okay. That's what the event system, and you can see the standalone input module event system. It's all right here. Okay. So all of all of those things can be controlled right here by this event system. Now let's go back to the button underneath your canvas, which is a child of the canvas, obviously, because the canvas is what the Unity UI uses to display these things. So it says button. Do you see the text on the bottom? Text in the hierarchy. I'm sorry. It says text TMP.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let's change that, the text input, to start game. Very good. Okay. And then let's change the button to a different size. Why don't you go back to button and change it to a nice size? Give it a nice horizontal size, width and height. Do what you need, do what you think you need to do. Very good. That's actually perfect, right? So we can, if we press, we can actually see right now by default, it has the transitions of the button are changing the tint. Click on the transition. You could do sprite swap. So you can actually have like, oh, I want it to do this sprite when you click on it, and this sprite when you highlight it, and this sprite when you do that. Or you could have an animation play. That's much more complex, and we're not going to even talk about it right now. But let's do tint, and let's change the, so normal color is what it is right now. Highlighted color is when your cursor goes over it.
Yeah.
And then selected color is like if you're using a controller and you actually go down, like the button is selected.
Yeah.
And the pressed color is when it actually gets pressed. And then the disabled color is when the button still exists, but it cannot be interacted with.
Okay.
Okay. So if you were to click the interactable button, do you see where the interactable checkbox?
Yes. Yeah.
You click that, it changes to the disabled color. Now that button's disabled. Okay. It still exists. It's just disabled, and you can enable it through the event system. So click it, interactable. Okay. This button works. If you play the game, you click it, it should change color when you press it. Yeah, it does, but it doesn't do anything, right? So we've created our start button, our start game button, but we don't have any way to actually start the game. That means to actually change it from one scene to another. So in order to do that, we need to create a script. This is not something that Unity natively does. So let's go to the scripts folder and let's create a new script, create script, and we'll call it scene changer. Okay. Very good. Excellent. Takes a moment. We could see a preview of that script on the right in the inspector, but let's double click it and it will open in Visual Studio Pro. Very good. Excellent. So you might think, oh, already I don't understand any of this. So it's pretty simple, to be completely honest. At the very top, it tells you what this script is using. By default, a new script in Unity will be using the system.collections, system.collections.generic, and the Unity engine, which has a lot of different functionality. So basically, if you write anything below that, it has to be understood by those systems. So if you write something about changing scenes, for example, it won't understand that because we actually need to add something, a using something at the top. So why don't you go up to the top where it says using Unity engine and press enter, and then going using using Unity engine dot scene. Ooh, it already says it. See, it already says it. Scene management. Click it.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, and now you need to close that off. So use the semicolon right there. If you don't use the semicolon, it won't work. Okay, there'll be an error. So now we can actually change scenes because it's using this Unity engine scene management. Now, you see two different things: void start, void update. You're like, what is void? The way that in my very bad, I'm not a good coder by any means. But the way I think of the word void is I think of it as being a command or a function. So you have to kind of divorce your mind from what void actually means in the English language. Okay. So void start, all of those commands that you write in that will happen immediately. Void update, Unity updates every frame. It runs at 60 frames per second. So it will update, or it will run any of those commands every single frame. Now, those are two things, but you're like, but I don't want to just do things at the start of a scene and on every second. What if I want something to just be there when I need it, right? Well, you can write it outside of void start and void update. So we can actually delete that. So why don't you select where from the first part where it says start is called from the first frame of the update, you go all the way down and then all the way down to that last bracket, not the very last, the second to the last, right? Delete. Okay. We don't need it. Okay. So we're going to create two public voids, two public commands, right? Public space.
Yeah.
Void.
Void.
And then you're going to do another space and then capital C change. And then we'll do capital S scene. And then you want to do a parentheses. So if you do a parentheses, it'll automatically create the other one there. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. So basically what you have created is a public command. Okay. That means that you could have your button, when you click on your button, it will actually be able to reference the change scene command. So we need to actually include two brackets after this. So press enter. Oh, I'm sorry, press undo that. Undo. Right. Okay, great. Press over and then enter. And then press the bracket key. The other one.
Yeah.
There you go. And press enter. So obviously, I don't know if you've done any web development. No,
I think you can tell that I haven't.
Yeah. Basically, in all code, it needs to be encased. So basically, whether it be, you know, CSS or like whatever, like it needs to have like a start and a finish for the system to know, oh, this is when the code starts and this is when it ends. And that's what those brackets do. The brackets are telling it this is when it starts and this is when it ends. Okay. So what are we going to, we're going to write scene manager, capital S, capital M, no space.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good. So you're referencing the Unity scene manager, and then you're going to press dot load scene, capital L, capital S. Okay. And then do parentheses.
Yeah.
And then in the parentheses, we want to write the name of our scene. Since it's a string, we need to do quotations.
Yeah.
And then write level _1. That references the level that we created, right? And then at the end of the parentheses, outside of the parentheses, put a semicolon. That finishes that line of code. Very good. So this works. Okay. Why don't you press save? It really wants you to install that tool.
Install that. Like Command S just saves.
Yeah, Command S. Yep.
Yeah, cool. Done that. Right.
Okay, and then go back to Unity. You don't have to exit out. Yeah. It might take a second to compile the code. Oh, click on Unity. Click in Unity. Okay, there it goes. Compiling scripts. Okay. Now let's go to our button.
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah.
Button.
Button.
Okay. Do you see, scroll down. Do you see where it says on click? Well, let's do add component. Add component.
And
underneath it, add component underneath.
Oh, sorry, add component.
Yep. And then type in scene changer, and we're gonna scene changer. Very good. We want to add that script. So now this component can use that script. Okay. If it cannot use that script unless it's added. Okay. So this is also important for when you start using Adventure Creator. Now, do you see where it says list is empty on click? Let's add an on click event.
Yeah.
You can actually, do you see where the button is in the hierarchy? You could do this two ways. You can either click there and add the button that way, or you could drag the button right in there.
Okay.
Yeah, you could drag the button in
into non-object.
Yep. And then the function, click on function. And you see where it says scene changer?
Yeah.
We want to reference that script. And which one of these things, look at what we have here. All these different options. Which one do you think we want to do?
Change scene.
Yeah. Click change scene. Okay, very good. Now press save, just save your project. Always save your project. Press play. click start game.
Hey. There we go.
There we go, right? So you can there's that was like a super simple script. We can also make a script that where you can, you know, add different scene names to it, because the script that we created for scene changing is hard coded to just change to that level. Yeah. Let's do one more thing. Let's press play.
Yeah.
It'll go back, and pressing play doesn't go to the last scene that you're playing. It goes to the last scene that you had opened.
Right. Okay.
So you're right. So we're back here. Let's add one more button.
Yeah.
No, not like that. Not like that. You can actually just duplicate that button.
So
Command D.
Okay.
Very good. Let's draw it right below start game. And let's call that, and let's change the text for this button. If you go to the hierarchy and you go underneath the button.
Oh, text.
Yeah. Change the text to quit game. Okay, very good. So let's go back to our scene changing script. We're going to add another public void. So go underneath that public void after that last bracket.
Yeah.
No, not that bracket. After that bracket.
This. Yep.
Yep. Public void.
Yeah.
Quit game, capital Q, capital G. And then again, parentheses.
Okay.
And then go over, press enter, create some brackets, press enter. Okay, very good. We need to write a command. The command is simple. And this is for Unity. Application, capital A, dot quit. And then to parentheses, semicolon after the parentheses.
Okay.
So that quits the game. Press save that.
Yeah.
Okay, should take, oh, I don't think you saved it. Oh, you did.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
There's not a lot of feedback on either of these things. When I do Command S, I'd like it to sort of go, yes, I saved. There's no sort of. No
so
feedback.
Actually, go into you see the console at the bottom near the project folder?
Yes.
If there's an error in your script, it will appear right there. Actually, go back to your script for a moment.
Yeah.
Remove the semicolon from after quit. And then save it.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and then save it. Then go back. And then now try to play your game. Oh, all compiler errors have to be fixed. You're like, ah. Okay, so go back to your script, add that semicolon. After quit. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. And then save it. Go back. Man. And that should disappear. Red things in Unity and the console are bad.
Bad, sure. Okay.
Yellow things are not necessarily bad. They could just be like warnings. But if you have like a lot of yellow things popping up, it might be trying to do things that are actually consuming memory, and you do actually want to solve those problems. Okay. But great. So now we have a way to quit game. If we were to start the game, let's go to the second button the quit game button, and then we have to go down to the on click, and then instead of changing the scene, on click.
Yeah.
And go to the right there. Scene changer. Quit game. Boom. You cannot quit the game when Unity is running. It won't work. It only works when you've built the game, because if you were to quit the game, it would shut down Unity. Yeah. So like by default, it just doesn't quit. Okay. So very good. So let's do one thing. Because if you play the game and then you're in that place, you have no way of going back to the start menu to actually quit the game. So let's take the canvas and event system and then highlight all the way down, and then do command copy.
Yeah.
Now save the scene, command S, save it.
Yeah.
Go and let's go to your scenes and then go to level 1. And then go up to your hierarchy, click in your hierarchy and press Command V. Pasted it. So let's go to the canvas. Let's delete button 1, that button, start button, just delete it. And let's take the button, that button and draw it up into the upper right corner.
Okay. Oh,
yeah, you don't have to press the command or like just put it over there. Now we can quit the game from this scene. Okay. So we're done. Okay. We're done with our game. We're not going to add any sound or anything like that. We can start adding sounds and stuff when we're using Adventure Creator. But let me just show you how you would do that if you were to add a sound. Okay. So you can actually, let's for example, add a sound to this button. So on the button, add a component.
Yeah.
Not on the text mesh. You're on the text mesh. The text.
Sorry, I'm on the button. Yeah. Button
no worries. Add audio source.
Audio source. Yeah.
Now remember, your game camera has an audio listener. It's listening for audio. It's like giving your game ears. But an audio source is like giving an object a speaker. Okay. You cannot play audio without an audio source. So even if somehow you were able to add an audio clip, okay, like you actually have an audio clip, you like drag an audio clip and you're like, I have an audio clip here. Why isn't it playing? It's like, that's like going over to your friend's house and saying like, I have some CDs, you want to listen to them, but they don't have anything to play them off of. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So the audio source is like a speaker. It literally has a little speaker icon. You could, so where do you drag that audio clip? You can drag it into the audio source. You see where it says audio source? You can add it in right there. Yep. Yeah. And then go down and it has play on awake by default. That means as soon as you start the scene, it plays. So you might want to uncheck that for certain audio sources in your game. If you click loop, it will loop. Okay. There's also these other things, bypass reverb zones. Typically, you won't be using most of those things, but you can see that there's a lot of different options here. Okay. And then the audio mixer group, that will probably be important because once you get your Adventure Creator game to a certain state, you will probably want to implement the audio mixer group. Okay. You're not going to just want to use, you'll want to use Unity's audio mixer group. It will really help you adjust your sound effects and your speech and your music and everything like that. So okay. that's for future, but you can actually reference this audio source in the button. We don't have an audio clip for it, but let's just do it as if we were to do it. So press the plus on the on-click event for the button. Above.
Well, oh, sorry. Yeah.
On click. Do add plus. Yeah. Do again reference the button. So you need to reference the button itself. You can actually reference any object in the scene, which is awesome. Click on the function. Go to audio source, and then it would be play. So, for example, you want your button to click. When you click it, it goes or something like that. That's what you would do. But it won't do anything right now because there's no audio clip in there.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
Anyways, so let's build this game. We're done. There's actually one last thing before we're done. Go to I want to just make sure it's the right place. I want to say it's edit. Yes, I think it's called. Yes, project settings. You want to go to edit.
Yeah.
Project settings.
Project settings, right?
Now that seems, and then why don't you stash that somewhere? Maybe up by the game. Yeah.
Up here,
yep.
Yeah.
And you might be like, wow, what an inconspicuous little option here. This is super important, like so important. Okay, so look at where it says graphics on the left.
Yeah.
That is the type of graphics that you're using. So if you want to start using a different pipeline, like like you want to be using 2D lighting and stuff, you would have to put that right where it says render pipeline asset. Okay. So, and then all of these things are under here in the graphics. Like so you can control so many things right here. Another thing that's important is where it says input manager. Do you see input manager on the left?
Yep.
Okay. So why don't you expand where it says axis? So you can actually see this is where you would tell Unity, like if you wanted to set up a controller, this is one of the places you could set up a controller. There's another way to do it, but this is the most basic way to do it. Okay. And then you see where it says player.
Yeah.
That little inconspicuous thing is where you'll change the icon for your game. So when the game is, you know, like on someone's desktop and you want it to have like your little player icon, you can expand icon. Yeah, this is where you would put those icons. Okay.
That's such a weird place to hide that really important thing.
You know, it's a super robust system. So you can see like there's iOS, there's Android, because and the reason that those two things appear, if you go up to the top, and you see iOS and Android, the reason that is there and not like Xbox or PlayStation is because you haven't actually imported the Xbox or like the PlayStation or the other things. Like if you've imported those options into Unity, then they will appear in those tabs. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Very good. All right. So let's build this game. Let's go to File.
Yeah.
Build settings. And let's cancel. And then do you see where it says build?
Yeah.
Build. And let's save it as whatever you want.
What game?
Save it to the desktop, because then it'll go right on the
sense.
desktop. It shouldn't take too long to build it. Unity builds games relatively fast. I'm surprised sometimes at how fast the builds can be. Of course, with Adventure Creator, if it's quite large, like hundreds or dozens of scenes, you know, lots of different voices and assets and stuff like that, it will take, you know, it might take 10, 15, 20 minutes, but you can do it pretty quick. So let's go to let's take a look at your desktop.
Yeah.
Where is it? Oh, block game. Let's double click it. Yay, made with Unity. Start game. You made it. Quit game.
Quit game. Hey. I mean, that's a game.
Basically, right? I mean, again, there's like, it's so simple. It's like, there's so many things that you need to tweak, but obviously because we're using Cinemachine and like the event system and the canvas, it wasn't rendered properly. So like the button, instead of being in the upper right corner, was like somewhere in the center of the screen. Like all of those things we could polish up, right? You could polish up what the buttons look like really easily just by adding simple sprites. You could probably polish this game in 20 minutes and make it look a lot better, especially if you know what you're doing, right? But that's basically it. So do you have any questions about this initial intro to Unity?
I mean, I have 1,000, but I think, you know, in terms of the getting the basics and understanding, you know, even having never even really looked at it before, understanding the windows and stuff and everything, I think that's a pretty thorough run through.
Yeah.
So thank you.